Well, shall I begin?
Okay, you want to start? I also love that in this moment, all the folks with us are getting like a real inside peek at the way scene partners work,
Yeah,
because
that's true.
this is kind of what we did, back then is to sit and bring all of these questions we'd been thinking about, into our rehearsal room and our table reads and our cast dinners and mornings over coffee on set. It's like this is really the fun part about our jobs. How did you start to prepare once you first read the script and said, oh, I want to do this? What was your next order of business to get into character?
Oh, well, my next order of business is to relate to Tom, not think about how I'm going to play Tom. I'm thinking about what do I know about Tom and how can I bring something of myself into Tom? And my hook in was family, love of family. I've got two daughters. I would fight for them. I would die for them. And I think there's a lot of that in Tom Truby. And we find out that he's kind of been devastated and lost a bit of his family. And here's an opportunity to reclaim a new family. And maybe he doesn't do it in the best way, but it's out of love and need and fear and grief and obsession. So I found all of those things to start with Tom. Where did you start with Allie?
Yeah, I similarly to you, I think figuring out what I understand about someone, even as you were saying, even if they're doing something that you could call wrong, how do you understand the motivation? And the way you talk about Tom's humanity, for me, I had to really unpack who Allie is. I had to unpack what her journey has been. I had to, as myself, even look at some of the things that this character criticizes about herself. And I hated some of that for her. There are things that she brings up in the story. I don't want to give any spoilers, but where I thought, you didn't do anything wrong there, and don't you see? And I caught myself wanting to support this person. And I said, oh, the hooks are in. I care. I care about this family. I care about their struggles. And then what I always make sure I have to do is come to terms with both what I relate to a character on and what I don't, and ensure that I can deconstruct any favoritism on this end of the spectrum and any judgment on this end of the spectrum, and really just figure out how to put a nuanced, complicated human being together. And then I think something that was really impactful for me, a couple of things. Understanding this question of identity and family. My partner's kids are adopted. My best friend's son is my godson. Obviously, I did not give birth to him, but I would literally give up my life for that kid. I have two friends who have a gorgeous, gorgeous family, and both of their children they adopted through the foster care system. And I watched them fight for years for those children. And I got to ask them about what it felt like to have raised them, from the time they were little babies, and spend years not knowing if their children would stay their children, what that limbo felt like, what that journey was like, how they held on to their humanity, how they didn't just die from the anxiety and the fear. And it was so gorgeous to have people share, all of these journeys and these experiences, because then I got to think about, imagine being trapped in that limbo that I know my friends were in, for example. Imagine the limbo hitting you when your kid's 15. All the information, all of the experiences, the way we build our modern families, all of it became really beautiful fuel to understand, that yes, biology is something, and also family is what you make it. And it colored the story for me in a really cool way. Okay, I have a good one. Speaking of, the fandom that's excited about this crossover, because one of the things that I loved the most about working on One Tree Hill, and that I know the fans loved, was my character's arc. She really got to start as one thing and then evolve into something that I loved, that felt different. And you got to do something really similar playing Luke on the OC. Do you think that was the moment in time? Do you think we both just got lucky with storyline? Like, what was the journey for you with carrying him through his arc?
Well, I think I got cast as Luke because I looked a certain way. Okay. I was on Abercrombie bags and, underwear modeling. And they even put a joke in the script about like, hey, Abercrombie, so I was very sort of stereotypically this guy that they wanted to look like Luke. But our first season, I think, was like 25 episodes. It's a lot of episodes. And we spent a lot of time together on set with the writers and producers. And I think they got to know me as a person more, and they started to layer a little bit more of the goofy, funny Luke in, and they kind of enjoyed bringing him in this direction of, a jock who had been putting up this front. And when he became able to be himself around his new friends and the people who had been the outcasts, he suddenly was able to be his goofy self. And, that was a really fun way to take the character.
Yeah, I think it was a similar journey for me, as the writers got to know me, my character got, she just grew. I think they realized that I was a really sensitive soul who might, be able to sort of show up in any room, but would probably be really nervous on the inside, and who shows up for friends no matter what. And there were certainly these bold and courageous, crazy, amazing things that she did that I don't know that I would have been able to. We always joke that like every character on One Tree Hill had the most insane adult job. Like I became a fashion designer, one played in the NBA, like it was insane. But I think there were certain things about, like integrity and feistiness and passion and whatever that I know they certainly started to layer in there for me that, just made me feel like I could bring a little more of myself to her.
Yeah, I think that tends to happen over time when you're working on a series that lasts a long time. The writers get to know you and they start putting more of you. And when you've been on a show like on Grey's 7 years now, I've seen a lot of myself on screen.
I was going to ask that. I love that. That's so fun. We have discussed that there are thriller moments. Things take a turn. Everyone knows we had to work with stunt coordinators. I won't say how or by whom, but there is a moment in the film that did make me feel stressed for you because there was no stunt performer who could take the hit. It's literally a close-up on your face and you get hit with, shall I say, very hot water. How hot was it? Or are you just that good at acting?
Well, no, I'm a terrible actor, so I requested boiling water so that I could have a real reaction.
Great, love that. Your ability to heal your face is amazing.
Yeah, no, I refused interviews for a while it was healing up. No, it was. I think it was slightly warm because it had to be like giving off a little bit of steam. But no, it did not scald me. But I enjoy taking a shot to the face from time.
Well, it looks so brutal in the movie. That was one of those things. I was like, I was in the room for that. Why am I so startled?
Yeah, no, I had to take some other shots to the face too, which I love that. I love doing stunts and fights. I love it.
I do too. It's so fun.